Yes, 12 days away from the start of the NHL season. I am so pumped about it. We had to insist that TSN Radio superstar Bryan Hayes make his Onrait season debut. Hazy B, great to see you. How was your summer?
Oh, phenomenal, Jay. Phenomenal. But I'm ready to rock, buddy. It's great to be back. I'm loving it, man. Like you said, hockey right around the corner, football, the whole nine. It's great.
Yes, it is. And the Leafs, I loved what Brad Treliving said when he was hired, and he brought in Bertuzzi and Reeves, adding a little snot. And we're wondering what's happening with Nylander. And you guys on your radio show are going nuts over Easton Cowan. There's so much to talk about with the Leafs. But what I want to ask you, Bryan, is, you talk to so many fans, you hear from so many fans when you're hosting that radio show. What's the temperature of Leaf Nation right now going into the season?
I think it's a room temperature, Jay. And I'm not saying that in an insulting manner or trying to be snippy. I think Leaf fans are very comfortable with this time of year because the Leafs are about to enter the regular season where they're very successful, right? They've been a very, very good regular season team for a long, long time. So I think Leaf fans are very comfortable this time of year. I think the team is giving off that vibe as well. The signing of Austin Matthews plays a role in that. Yes, William Nylander's pending UFA status is kind of hanging in the air, but I think there's even a comfort level on that end that eventually that deal will get done and Willie will stick around long term. So I think Leaf fans are very comfortable. I think the team's comfortable. The core players, the star players are veterans now. They've been here for a long time. They're familiar with the market. The market's familiar with them. And a lot of these new faces, I think, are entertaining ads, right? Tyler Bertuzzi's an entertaining player. He's going to get a shot at it with Matthews and Marner. People are intrigued by that. And Max Domi coming in, that's a really cool story. Ryan Reeves is a larger-than-life personality, so that's going to add a little bit of spark. I think Leaf fans are excited. It should be a fun season.
That was a fun answer, and it deserves a card flick. Here we go, Bryan. There it is. Broke another window. Just breaking a lot of property here at Bell Media. That's what I like to do, Bryan. Earlier in the week, we had Craig Button on the show. I know you love Craig like we do. But he had this to say, Bryan, about the Ottawa Senators. Take a listen.
I don't know if teams in the Eastern Conference, and maybe specifically teams or fans that support the Toronto Maple Leafs, realize how good the Ottawa Senators are. Because if I was the Toronto Maple Leafs, I'd be really, really worried about the Ottawa Senators.
Okay. Fascinating. And he got, I will say, Craig was trending nationally after that statement. Leaf Nation was up in arms. My question for you, Bryan, should Leafs Nation be worried that the Battle of Ontario is back and perhaps not tilted in their favor?
No, I don't think they should be concerned that it's tilted in the favor of the Ottawa Senators. But I think Leaf fans would embrace that. I think Leaf fans have been really craving that for years. And since the 04-05 lockout, Jay, the shoe has been on opposite foots in terms of who has not been pulling their weight, right? For about a decade, from 05 up until 15-16, it was the Leafs. The Leafs weren't any good. Ottawa was very good. Ottawa, I think, was saying, bring on the Battle of Ontario. It was the Leafs that were not pulling their weight and allowed the spark to kind of die out. For the last 6 or 7 years, it's been the opposite. The Leafs have been a juggernaut during the regular season, and Ottawa has not been a very good team, so Ottawa has not been pulling their weight. So I think Leaf fans and Leafs Nation would embrace it, right? It's the most recent great rivalry. Even what we've seen with the Leafs and Bruins in recent years, Leafs and Tampa in recent years, nothing can match the Battle of Ontario from 20 years ago. So I think Leaf fans are embracing it, but the reality is it's on Ottawa, the Ottawa Senators, to determine that it's back. Because I think the Leafs are going to be a very good team. The Leafs are likely going to go to the playoffs. Ottawa has to pull their weight here. So when the Sens start doing that, that will reignite the Battle of Ontario. But from a Leaf perspective, and even taking into Ottawa into account here, when we're talking about the playoffs, I still think they're on different ends of the spectrum. I think the Leafs are looking to win the division and feel like they can, possibly top spot in the East, certainly home ice in the first round, where I don't think Ottawa is nearly as greedy or as ambitious. I think Ottawa would be happy with the second wild card spot by a point.
Yeah.
They just want to get in. The Leafs are thinking probably a little bit higher expectations than that. But ultimately, I think the Battle of Ontario would be great for both markets, and I think Leaf fans are actually craving that.
I couldn't agree more. There we go. Oh, I almost hit one of our camera ops. Sorry, Artie. He'll be fine. Huge news, Brian, out of Tampa Thursday. Onrait Vasilevskiy, there's always something like this in a training camp, right? There's a surgery that you wonder why it didn't take place 2 months ago, but he'll miss the first 2 months of the season. Back surgery. I guess my question for you is, how big an impact does this have on Tampa's season, but also how does it maybe affect how the rest of the Atlantic might shake up?
Oh, I think more of an impact than maybe any other player in the division, Jay. This guy has been the boogeyman in the Atlantic Division for years now. I think he's the best goalie in the world. He gets paid as if he's supposed to be the best goalie in the world. And the drop-off, it is Aaron Rodgers to Zach Wilson-esque. I mean, the drop-off in terms of the depth chart. Hockey DB doesn't have pages for who's backing this guy up in Tampa. So it's a massive drop-off once Vasilevsky's out. And it's one of those injuries that would concern me, and I'm sure it is in Tampa. I'm not disputing the timeline of 8 to 10 weeks, but I don't think it would shock anyone if it turned into 10 to 12.
Yeah.
You know, or if he returned and it was a load management situation, right? You're dealing with a back injury with a veteran goalie who's played a ton of minutes, more minutes than anybody in the league over the last 4 or 5 years. So Tampa was reeling a bit down the stretch last year, and we know what happened, right? The Leafs beat him in the first round. Now you got the Steven Stamkos contract hanging over this team. I don't think it's great mojo down in Tampa, and I think it opens the door for a team like Ottawa, maybe a team like Buffalo, probably a team like Florida to breathe a little bit easier, but now they got to take advantage of it. So I think it could be a massive shift for Tampa in their expectations, and definitely a massive ripple effect on what else could happen in the Atlantic Division.
Man, you got me even more excited for the upcoming season, a dozen days away. Bryan Hayes, always great to chat with you. I know it's not been such a great night for your Packers, but we really appreciate you coming on the show anyway.
Yeah, I love the Pack, but I bet the Lions, so it's all good. And I beat Luke Wilson, too. Luke was on the Packers tonight. Make sure he knows that.
Way to go, Luke. There goes one more window broken. Thanks, Brian.
See you, buddy.